Good morning, and I am Dr. Nasinga Burton, and welcome to the NNPA Black Press USA live stream with the iconic, legendary, Academy Award winning activist, actor, philanthropist, Mr. Louis Gossett Jr.
Where is it? How y'all doing?
Oh my gosh, we are great. How are you?
Very blessed now that we're together, we're connected.
Yes.
My favorite university, Emory.
Emory, yes, Emory. We enjoyed having you here last year and having this ongoing relationship with you as well. This is fantastic.
This is wonderful.
Yes. So, I was watching Good Times last night, and I saw the episode where you played Thelma's paramour.
Oh, boy.
I was like, I cannot wait to tell Mr. Gossett. I said, you play the boyfriend and the uncle.
Yeah, and you also Jefferson doing the same thing.
Yes. So I know John Amos is one of your best friends. So I talked about that. Yeah. But let's get into this. I want to talk to you about that that little tiny show that nobody's ever heard of, based on a comic that nobody's ever heard of. All of this is jokes, of course. Watchmen. Tell me. Yeah. How did you get involved? Like, how did you choose that as a project? Because I know you can pretty much do what you want.
Chosen by Robbie, I forgot her last name, and casting.
Robbie Reed?
Reed, yeah. So I'm really grateful to her. She knew that something had to be done with that character. It was only written a certain way, but there's some such subtext involved. My pet subject, Bass Reeves, is my pet subject.
Okay.
Most consummate sheriff in the West.
Okay.
It wasn't Wyatt Earp, it wasn't none of those people. It was Bass Reeves. Successful, the most famous, and everybody copies from him. Because of the sign of the times, obviously. Everybody else got the real Rogers and the Gene Autry's and all those people, but it was Bass Reeves. So she was my favorite subject. So finally, I got the part.
Did you have to audition?
No.
Oh, okay. I was about to say. Okay. How dare they? Okay.
This is a dynamic we must talk about.
Yeah.
With other subjects also about our, what do you want to put it, our reconnection races and the generations. For so many years, it's been one reality, my way or the highway, the John Wayne. My mentality is the one that runs things, and you have to fit in.
Right.
Now we have this brilliant young man who wrote The Watchmen.
Yes.
Wrote a comic strip, and he got to this kind of character, Will Reeves.
Yes, Will Reeves. Yes.
Beautifully written. So my all my adrenaline is running, so I can contribute more knowledge about Tulsa.
Yes.
The Exodusters with Sidney Poitier and Harry Belafonte did the movie called Buck and the Preacher.
Yes.
The Tulsa bombings and the beginning of the first black rodeo right down the street from Tulsa.
Yes.
So that was my favorite subject. The Black West is a favorite subject. Of course, that's when the runaway slaves, the escaped slaves, got a new life.
Yes.
And interface with the Indians, etc. I love it. I can speak about it for hours.
Yes.
So I'm glad they chose me. I figured they chose me because of that knowledge.
Okay.
There was a little history with HBO with myself in the thing I did with Michael K. Williams when I played his father, Boardwalk Empire.
Oh, yes.
I'm coming to the same point. So they got me playing this old gangster, successful. And he comes with this beautiful woman because he's escaping from the enemy. So I tell her to go cook something. And everybody loves the character. So now we're sitting there and I'm eating and I take a bite of the chicken and it's terrible. So she must be good for something else because she sure can't cook worth a damn. And it was cut. I said, what do you mean? The line is she can't cook a damn. I said, there's no such phrase as she can't cook a damn. She can't cook worth a damn is what we say. Well, we want you to say it the way we wrote it. Wait a minute. That's not the way we speak.
Right.
So I add to the Watchmen when I'm playing this Will Reeves with all this knowledge from my studying and from my roots.
Right.
And so there's a little headbutting. There to not to destroy, but to add.
That's right.
Quality. And to make a long story short, we all got nominated because of that addition of the mentality. What really happened in Tulsa, what happened to our emotions.
Yeah.
So it made it deeper than he had originally written, I think. Because my leading lady, she got it really, really quickly. So the last scene I did was the last scene that I did when I told her about my life. And I was sitting in the theater as a kid, and I saw my mama disappear when she was playing the piano. Personal. So I have a feeling that providence. So my point is the providence in stories that they're talking about us, even if we don't do them, it becomes a deeper situation.
Yeah, I mean, you're bringing yourself, your experiences to the character, right? So Will Reeves, you embody him and you create him because you bring all of who you are into that character.
That's our role as elders, to tell the proper story.
Yes.
If you compare our role as elders to the information and history,
yes,
my elders, because my great grandmother lived there past 117, you have to give them respect about their story and add to it so that there's authenticity in the story. And it's HBO or ABC or CBS, and they're getting the message. Respect what we have to add, and our society will grow into the proper size.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So
instead of doing it the way I wrote it.
That's right. That's right. Well, because but an actor of your caliber, of course, I think would probably be met differently because you are. I mean, you come from the Negro Actors Ensemble, like you're a trained actor. You went to NYU.
Yeah.
And you're so esteemed. I can't imagine that a director would be like, nah, whatever. Forget what Louis got to do.
Some of the old rules that have to be changed.
Yes.
Our sides, which is why I have this foundation. We have to do this together.
Racism, yes.
For defects of character that kept us from doing it before, we've got to get rid of them today.
Yes.
Because our mutual salvation depends upon our getting back together.
Right.
Authentic time.
Right. And so when you talk about Tulsa is also the Tulsa massacres is also was a major storyline recently in Lovecraft Country.
Yes.
Also on HBO. Can you talk about the ways in which people are creatives are making the connections between the past, the old with the new, in this genre of science fiction? Can you talk about that?
Well, this is the first time they're been allowed. Magic word allowed. Tell that story. They've had that story, been sitting on it for quite a while. They took it, put it in the closet in lieu of the time that they could show it. So now, all of a sudden, they're paying attention to us.
Right.
You see, it's TBS. So now those stories that we had in the closet and in the files, we can now pull out and make things equal. The mistake, well, it's not a mistake. The error that we might make when we tell these stories, we're telling these stories have to do them authentically rather than filling in a missing gap of an existing society. Existing society that doesn't include us.
Right.
It includes the automatic assumption of superiority. What we're going to is nothing but mankind. Not mankind, not Irish mankind, not Russian mankind, but mankind. Bottom line philosophy is going to take mankind to save mankind.
Okay.
All that built in us, we have to throw away.
Right.
And replace it with mankind.
Right. So I know that's kind of the tenet of racism, right? Really focusing on humankind, really focusing on what we have in common versus that which separates us. But in science fiction, you can really transgress whatever boundaries you want to put in place that society puts in place. And that's one of the beautiful parts of science fiction. Can you give me an example of maybe something that you worked, because I know you did the film with Enemy Mine with Dennis Quaid. I know Hap and Leonard, one of my favorite shows, people, I can't believe they didn't bring it back, but it had that science fiction element and also brought together those issues of race and what have you. But can you tell me or talk to me about a time that you have used or applied your knowledge in terms of racism, like your ideology around humankind, to a character, like you've seen it play out?
Well, I had a chance to do it, ironically, in Roots.
Okay.
But mostly in Enemy Mine. Because I had to create a character from scratch, find the similarities, to such a deep extent that once I pass away and have another baby, my counterpart, my Earthling, my Dennis Quaid character, is so involved with me and my society that he goes back to my planet to salute me. God would only allow this happening, actually. If God would allow that to happen here on this planet, there's the keys to our kingdom right there. Get close enough to understand, love one another, brothers and sisters, for the salvation of us all, which is the key to society now. Once the explorer went to Africa, and you have the auspices in your university to find out what is all the fuss about with racism. What is all this happening? Why are we being watched sometimes 24/7? What did they discover that made them feel afraid? Let's qualify that and get rid of it from mutual salvation. What is it? And what I think it is the magic of not just race, but different people who have been oppressed, if you want to call it that, is in order to survive the oldest culture, we are trained at every age to do something, number one, for the benefit of the whole tribe. So if you're 3, 4, 5 years old, then you have to gather some nuts and stuff you put in one. Everybody ate the nuts. A little bit further, you milked the goats. A bit further, you brought the food. But everything you did was for the benefit of the whole tribe. And that consciousness to a country, and the problem is over.
So is it possible to expand that consciousness to a country that's built on the pillars of white supremacy?
Well, it's not. You can't say. I understand why you said it, but you can't say the pillars of white supremacy. It's the pillars of European supremacy.
Okay, how do you do it?
Well, also had the same principles. The Moroccans, the first civilization. So the bottom line, the oldest civilization ever recorded is from the Ashanti, etc. So that has to do with learning the lesson because of the elements of the planet to survive. So that's astrology, that's animal husbandry, that's alchemy, that's all of that in order for the tribe to survive. First civilizations ever to be recorded come from Africa, come from the Moroccans, etc. And they had slaves, and the human beings, and they had harems with the women in the harems. They cut the enemy's members off, and they had the eunuchs, and they discovered that some things work and some things do not. Elements of the culture is all around the world. So that when the first explorers went back to Africa, we were paying the karmic debt of doing wrong things and right things. You see African things in Spain and France and Italy, but you also have the harems that you can see in certain places. That's the Afro-Arab kind of consciousness. So we've all made our mistakes. We sometimes forget that we were first slave owners. We've paid our dues. That was then, this is now. Now, this is just from me. The message I think we're getting is to take a deep breath and not think about the inequities of education or health or rites of passage, but to take it and put it in the garbage right now and start from scratch about one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
But how do you do that if everyone isn't on that same page? How are you getting people on that same page?
You have to bury the hatchet in the next generation. And it's happening even as we speak. Look at the Dodgers, look at the Lakers, look at the Atlanta Falcons. Look at our young people. They don't care what color you are. If they like you, they like you. Look at the music. It's happening. I don't even know if they know what's happening. It's happening. That divine power that is there, and young people are more sensitive to it than the elders. Our elders have a job to do is to translate and transfer that design power that God is in charge always, or whoever you might call him. The message is whatever we do is for the benefit of the whole. It has to do with animals, it has to do with insects, and most definitely has to do with intelligent human beings, regardless of the past.
So when you talk,
it's said and done.
Yes. So when you talk about elders, what type of mentorship relationship do you have with your fellow actors? I mean, you've played against some, fantastic people. Regina King. You said Dennis Quaid earlier. I mean, like so many amazing actors. Like, in what ways do you help bring up that next group of Black
Well,
actors who might be facing the same level of discrimination, to some extent that you might have faced during your career?
that spirituality in you matches the spirituality in me, and we continue the message. There's a connection to it. I had my connection, fortunately, with my great grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
She was her responsibility. She was a slave, and maybe before this is over, I'll show you a picture of me and her when I first started at the age of 17.
Mm-hmm.
Photograph is me at the age of 17, and her at the age of 117, 115 at the time.
I think that photo's in your book. But anyway, go ahead.
So,
Your
so
autobiography.
she was raising me and my cousins.
Mm-hmm.
She came backstage. And I was a young man, and the magazines around was Our World, Ebony. So the famous Black people used to come and take care of this new kid on the block. It was Adam Clayton Powell and Hazel Scott, Lena Horne, Josephine Baker, some of the famous Black people. I didn't know who they were. Paul Robeson was my best friend.
Mm-hmm.
T-ball voice, They come by on Wednesday and Saturday matinee and make sure that I got the message to carry the tradition of the American African actor.
Mm-hmm.
Canada Lee, Frederick O'Neill, who played my father. So they took very good care of me. My great grandmother came backstage one Saturday and she said, "Get out the way." And she slapped me 5 times.
Mm.
I said, "Grandma, why'd you slap me?" She says, "I taught you better to take care of your grandma. And I heard you session your grandma on the stage." I said, "No, it's just a line in the play." And she slapped me 3 more times. She said, "I don't care.
Mm.
I taught you how to take care of your grandma." And then they're laughing. I'm trying to explain to her, there's a play, it's not my line. She said, "I'm gonna come back and make sure you don't say it again." Come back, but every time I say the line, I'd stutter.
Grandma didn't play that, huh?
Age of 17.
Oh wow! Oh wow!
That connection, that generational connection,
Mm-hmm. So,
I can't do without it. So I'm acting like that now.
so who are you? I mean, like, what's your relationship with Regina King?
There's an invisible connection there. Maybe she's my daughter, my baby sister,
Mm-hmm.
connected.
Mm-hmm.
Something very nice is happening. Mutual respect, obviously.
Yes.
She looks to me and looks to my generation as hopefully the impetus. She's incredibly great, but she can't think about being in that position right now. It's a long way down the fall.
Mm-hmm.
She got to be made of sterner stuff than she is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Very proud of her.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's doing fantastic work. So, what are you working on now? Like, what do you? I mean, I know you're doing races. That's your life's work, but what are you working on in terms of your creative?
I just turned 84.
Woo! Woo!
So I didn't think I was gonna live longer than Joe Morgan.
Happy birthday! Yes.
Thank you, honey.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sitting here, I do a prayer and meditation on a daily basis. So now the body is beginning to get a little timid here and there.
Mm-hmm.
I came to the decision to have an assessment. And my assessment is my dental work,
Mm-hmm.
physical work, my spiritual work, and my emotional work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Sit down quietly and get the message. Have an assessment and then make a decision as a result of what I find. And that's what I'm in the middle of now. I've got 3 movies coming out.
Okay.
One about the Foster Boys.
Mm-hmm.
There's about the Cuban.
Mm-hmm.
And the third one is a faith-based one called The Reason.
Okay.
So now I do the public relations for that, and I talk about my foundation.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to fit so that through prayer and meditation, I can recommend to anyone who's spiritually oriented to make yourself receptive of a message on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
Get rid of the clouds of communication from who you think your higher power is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And make sure that connection is as pure and clean as possible. If it's not, then the elements of negativity will get into it before the day is up.
So that's how you choose your projects now? Like, they have to meld with where you are spiritually, like where you are in life?
What I can do.
Different from before? Is that different from how you used to choose your projects?
Well, I did it a little quicker, a little younger.
Okay.
But connection, the longer the connection, the better it is. But there's, you're good, you get good reviews. But now there's another element happening.
Mm-hmm.
Another element that makes it more significant, it seems, to me, with the Watchmen as opposed to the Watchmen or Fiddler. the sign of the times now for the Watchmen, for Will Reeves, it's much deeper. I didn't even have to think about it. My instrument seemed to be more facile at these moments. Before I used to reach for them, I don't seem to have to reach for them now. And I need to pass that on to the next generation of actors and actresses.
So we have a lot of people who are sending shout outs to you, happy birthday messages. David Youngblood, Annette Phillips says happy birthday. Kevin Wayne Johnson says good to see you. Lou Gossett, my favorite movie, An Officer and a Gentleman. Tasha Page Brown is sending you heart emojis. I told you, you still got it. You still got it. David Youngblood wants to know, can you talk about your early influences? Like, what are some of your early influences?
You mean as an actor?
Yes, as an actor, yes.
Oh, well, I was surrounded with the best. I was surrounded with the Frederick O'Neills. Since one of my contemporaries was the man by the name of the late Bill Gunn, who wrote Good Actor.
Yes.
Little Cicely, my contemporary. Canada Lee, I saw him get carried away from the theater. It was on Broadway. They carried him away. And they told me who he was. He was started the American Negro Theater.
Yes.
And he had a heart attack in front of the theater that he used to star in as a shoeshine man. Because whatever reason, I've been connected to the elders, which is something natural for us to do, to get a message. When that message is not done, we seem to be lost without the proper input from the elder. So in that curiosity of what happens, why the connection is lost, it has become natural for us to get a message from the elder, passed on to the next generation, to be passed on to the younger generation. So this continuum of the philosophy that makes it the oldest culture ever to survive on the planet. The reconnection of the generations. Go back to the good old days, both all in the university systems, to bring up those stories again. There is a resistance of us to tell those stories here recently, because of fear that if we knew who we were, we'd take over. And there's no such thing as taking over. It's joining an overwhelming movement of the human being from mutual salvation.
Okay.
And
so
it belongs to that.
Yes. And we have Noah Washington, who is a huge fan of yours, he said he's ready for you. He said, let's go. But we only have 5 minutes left. So I got one question for you. What is your legacy? What do you want your legacy to be?
My legacy to be continuing growth. There's no such thing as impossible. Throw it away. Find and reconnect and get your humility from a power greater than yourself, that you must communicate with in a humble way on a daily basis. Clear the problem so that the message is clean and clear. Follow orders. Then and there you will find whoever you want to call them, Allah, God, that higher, strong energy, and contribute it freely to the whole and survival of society.
Okay. And I know I said that was our last question, but I still got to ask you this question. Tell me how you felt before I let you go. Tell me how you felt when you won the Academy Award for An Officer and a Gentleman, Best Supporting Actor.
As a result of the Oscars that happened before that, with John Wayne winning for True Grit, but there was Robert Preston, his last movie, Victoria, James Mason, The Verdict, Charles Burney. I said, oh, they deserve it. So it kind of went into a little lethargy. And my agent hit me in the ribs with his elbow, says, they call your name. So I wasn't prepared. So I went up and said from the top of my head and from my heart how much I appreciate it. And I was in shock. I was in shock for almost a year. So was everybody else, I guess. But there's a divine order that happens to us, but we have no control over it. I'm very grateful for it. It got me started. And today I realized in gratitude that I don't think there's any other actor, with the exception of maybe Cicely, who's got a longevity as far as an artist is concerned. When I started, it was Lena Horne, and all those particular people. I started in '53. In 2020, still at it.
Yes. Well,
I'm amazed. I'm very simply amazed and humbled
Yes.
by the attention I'm getting from people like yourself and others. I'm very grateful. And hopefully, I do the right thing humbly
Mm-hmm.
for what it's worth. That's the name of my new program.
Mm-hmm.
Pass on things so we can get our society better.
Mm-hmm. And what role do you think people remember you most for? Like, what if people stop you in the street and they say,
Just three. Just three. There's Officer and Gentleman, there's
Obviously,
Outlaw, and then there's Roots. Now the Watchmen. There's four.
yes, yes, Will Reeves. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Gossett. I wish we could talk to you longer, but I know you are the man and you have like 3 other interviews lined up later after this one. But it's always a pleasure seeing you, always a pleasure talking to you about your career and about e-racism. Please visit for information about e-racism, Google it, Found a Foundation, and see what Mr. Gossett is doing to help bring humankind together. And then, I just want to say thank you so much for the beautiful work that you've done over the course of your career, starting in 1953 and going on. And I mean, I don't even know how you keep up with so many movies and television. You just keep going, and I just love it. And your
It's
work is always
work.
stuff. It's always stuff.
I haven't worked a day in my life. It's not work.
Not work. It's not work.
No.
Okay. Well, that helps.
Good to see you. You look very beautiful today. Keep up the good work.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Gossett, and we'll talk soon.
I
Thank you
look
so much,
forward to
and thank you to everyone for joining us. And we will see you next week. I
God
am
bless.
Singer Burton. Goodbye.
Bye bye.